his era, I mean, this was a common way to talk about the household. And Paul even maintains, wives submit to your husbands, but he completely subverts what
how can
submission is, subverts what being the head is, and like,
no, he doesn't, and he didn't. You cannot say these same things cannot be true in the same time. One cannot say that he maintains the hierarchy and in the same time turns it on its head. Just think about this. This is not true. This is a lie. This cannot be true. One cannot maintain hierarchy and in the same time turn it on its head. That cannot be true. That's an oxymoron. In the same time, the two cannot be true. This is a lie. This sounds good. It does sound good, but doesn't make sense, and it's not true. And again, I want to show you this. In Mark 7:7, howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching doctrines, the commandments of man. This is Yahushua Mashiach. For laying aside the commandment of Elohim, ye hold the tradition of man as the washing of pots and cups and many other such things. Full well you reject the commandment of Elohim that you may keep your own tradition. So he didn't care nothing about their feelings, nothing, zero. He cared nothing about what they were thinking, what they were feeling about, talking about the commandments of Elohim instead of their own commandments. And he made it clear that their commandments were secondary, and those commandments and the ordinances and all that mattered nothing to him. The main thing was the commandments of Elohim. And if we understand Shaul to be a shalach or apostle of Yahushua Mashiach and Elohim, he could not have said nothing different, and he didn't. So what they are talking about here now, this is philosophy and vain deceit.
Aristotle would not like this. He would be pretty offended.
And they didn't care about that. Yahushua didn't care about the Pharisees, and Shaul didn't care about Aristotle.
Even though Paul's kind of like, oh yeah, house, yeah, structure in the house, yeah, wives, yeah. Is that
no, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter how much you laugh at that.
I want to get to 1 Corinthians 11 because there's some weird statements. It's like, whoa, are you a misogynist or are you a feminist?
No, he isn't. This is just a commandment of Elohim, and that's it. You just need to accept it. You can create all sorts of philosophies and theologies about this. That doesn't make it go away.
It's like, is that?
Yeah, and they are happy now. And, Jezebel loves this. When Jezebel finds Ahab, they are happy together.
How would you describe that kind of dance that Paul seems to be playing? And is that even an accurate way of describing it?
No, it isn't.
And this is where just the discussion in post-colonial interpretation really has shed some light on this. Is to say that if Paul it was a minority,
and for 2,000 years they didn't have that, so they just going to hell.
In a besieged minority in the Roman Empire, and so it's really the situation of Jews, whether they're in the diaspora or they were in
honestly, just think about this. Anyone who's listening, just think about this. When did Shaul or Peter or all the rest of them, or for that matter, Yahushua Mashiach, when did they ever consider their own safety or what the Romans were thinking, or the Greeks or Aristotle or the Pharisees? Never. They just spoke the truth as it is. So if it appears as he maintains hierarchy. The reason for that is because he does, and he did, and always will.
The Romans would call Palestine in Judea, that he was working as a minority within a dominant and very oppressive.
Yeah, now it's clear. Now we understand. He had to use Enigma code to get his message across.
Empire. And when you are in that situation...
All right, so everyone understands. Actually, I want to show this.
In that situation, you learn how to take actually symbols of the dominant culture and subvert them for the purposes of what you're trying to accomplish. And Paul makes no secret, say in Romans 12:1 and 2, that we're not supposed to conform to the world. But
Yeah, but we are doing it now. This is exactly what you are doing. These people are the apostles of Christian feminism. It's feminism, wearing the cloak of Christianity, using the same vocabulary, Jesus, the Bible, the passages and all that. But the theology is of feminism. Feminism is a religion, actually. It has an ideology. And these people are the priests of Christian feminism. And I don't want to hurt Preston because he looks like a genuine guy. However, what he's saying and contributing does not help not only Christians, but nobody else. Let's move on and listen to this.
I think is gold is to say that that people will even use the etiquette of the culture and subvert it into an insult. That's an inside joke, you know.
Inside joke. She's talking about now Ephesians chapter 5. It's an inside joke. That just means they don't understand this, and nor can they appreciate it and respect it. Because one just cannot talk about Ephesians 5. None of the scriptures, I think, nobody should talk in this manner, as if it's a comedy or inside joke, when it is so beautiful as we just read it before. I want to just read it again. For we are members of his body, of his flesh and of his bones. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Mashiach and the ecclesia, or the church. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife, that she reverence her husband. How can this be an inside joke and turning upside down the views of the culture of that day? This has nothing to do with Greek culture, Romans, nobody. This is Abba Yahuah. This is how he imagined family. And two people coming together to work together to build a house and a name for the esteem of their creator, who is him. There's no inside joke here. There's no turning around, no hierarchy and nothing. How they cannot understand, that is a great mystery, however. And this is the problem. There are so many faces to the devil, and this is just one of them. Funny, and it's light, easygoing, and it appears that it is harmful, but it's not.
You know, these kinds of things. So the understanding of particularly scholars that have come out of that people have been formerly colonized by
colonized and scholars and all that.
The UK, for instance, have contributed. This is what it's like to live with a dominant power like that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Now, once more, he's trying to understand this, her logic, which basically is illogical.
Would you
and sum it up?
Say that Paul is maintaining that wives submit to husbands?
Yes, you are right. Do not let yourself be convinced by these lies. This is the truth. What are you saying now?
Not husbands submit to wives?
Yes, now, so we understand that Shaul does keep the hierarchy as it is. Wives, submit to your own husbands, and husbands, do not submit to your wives. Yes, but now, here comes the but.
But he's redefining what submission is. And
yeah, now, okay, so, yes, submit, but submit doesn't mean really submit, it means something else. So submission, if submission doesn't mean to put under, as hypotasso means to put under, order under. So he doesn't define nothing new and nothing else. In terms of husbands, yeah, you should be a servant to your home and put yourself under their interests. However, the wife should put herself under her husband's authority and revere him. Whilst he loves her, she reveres him.
And then his command to love your wife almost becomes, I don't want to say practical submission, but I mean, there is a mutuality built into the passage.
Yes, there is, in certain degree. Yeah, there is.
But that doesn't mean that we. I just struggle with.
Yeah, of course. You understand. Just everybody understand this. Of course, he struggles because this doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. That's why he struggles. You cannot say you maintain hierarchy and in the other sentence or the same sentence, other part, you say, oh, this is totally upside down and submission doesn't mean submission no more. So submission is either submission or not. But if it doesn't mean that, it cannot maintain hierarchy. This is why he cannot understand. But he has to, because she's with him and he wants to see the world the way she sees it, because the spirit of Jezebel looks for the spirit of Ahab, and when she finds it, she subverts him, as we see it now.
In the New Testament, husbands are never commanded to submit to their wives. Like, that term is never
never
used there. Children aren't commanded, or parents aren't commanded to submit to your children, masters, slaves, but you do see the relationship still one of reciprocity. How would you navigate that?
Yeah, you cannot understand this, Preston. You cannot navigate that because that's not true. You are on the right path. Forget this. Just forget what she's saying. Otherwise, spirit of Jezebel will win.
Tension.
Right. Well, here's the deal. The thing they don't realize is that they take
what we don't realize. Help us.
these passages as Paul making comments on society as a whole.
Okay.
And what he was really doing is he wasn't challenging the authority structures.
Yeah, he didn't need to. He cared nothing about the authority structures. Understand something. Shaul wasn't saving the world. He wasn't trying to change the world. He was trying to help people who wanted to follow Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus. That's what he wanted to do. He wasn't thinking about Aristotle and Plato and all them their household codes.
I wouldn't consider the household was under the authority of the church. The household was under the jurisdiction of the Greco-Roman Empire, and
It wasn't.
and that was one of the things that they said. It was one of the building blocks of their hierarchy. It's the most.
It always is. Every society is built on families. This is why our society looks the way it does, because feminism and the emancipation of women and the strong independent women and all the weak men who just there to support their wives and do what she wants to do doesn't work.
Basic foundational things. Things go wrong in the home. You have defied
The husband to blame. I tell you that.
the empire. You have to right down to sexual positions.
Yeah, of course. This is the tales and the fables and the myths and the Jewish tales. What Shaul was writing about sexual position. No one knows nothing about this. There's no proof of none of this. What she's saying now.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
very
of course. Yeah.
serious business, and so he's giving instructions on how you navigate your faith and following Christ within these social relationships that he had no control.
No, he was just telling them how Elohim wants you to live. He wasn't considering nothing about Greco-Roman culture and nothing. He was just explaining, look, listen, this is how Yahuah, Elohim, God wants you to live. This is the way you live. There's no subverting, no hierarchy and household codes of Aristotle, and none of that. Understand this. And now she's been talking about this subverting the household codes and all that, and now she just says the same thing as I'm saying.
He was not. He did not have power within the Roman Empire to change the culture. He wasn't doing culture wars. He was talking about how we behave as people of faith when we walk in these roles.
Until now, she said that all these household codes and Greco-Roman things and all that. Now she's saying the exact opposite.
And so that's a huge distinction. And so he's not saying I'm changing the culture. He's saying here's where the culture is, and therefore I just told you to mutually submit. So how is it going to look like? How's that going to look like in these authority relationships?
Yeah, bang, spot on. Now we agree. So why did it take half an hour to get to this point when both of them were talking about the exact opposite of this? Now there's a new thought enters, I think.
In terms of it's the one who has the power that makes the bigger adjustment.
All right, so the one who has the power subverts now.
In these commands, as it should well be, because
yeah, it should be. So the one who has the power makes the bigger adjustment. Let's see who they are.
Within the culture, no question that women are supposed to submit, children are supposed to submit. And
yeah, so now children don't supposed to submit to their parents, or what now?
above all, slaves are
And now even slaves
supposed to submit. And if he were telling slaves,
and also, but understand, this is not the slavery we understand the slavery to be from the United States in terms of the transatlantic slave trade. This is a different kind of slavery. This is servitude.
not to submit, that would undermine Christianity as a whole. It probably would not have lasted.
Right.
But instead of saying, yes, you guys submit. In fact, you're doing it right. In fact, you're my role models. You're my heroes. And now...
Yeah, exactly the way they should. Who she's talking about now? Women, children, and the servants or slaves. They should submit. This is what she just said, and she agrees now.
People in authority, you observe their behavior and you model that. I'm not taking you out of authority. If he did, there'd be trouble.
Yeah, now listen. Authority means there are people who subordinate to you. This is what authority means. If you leave husbands and slave masters and parents in positions of authority, by default, there are going to be subordinates. And these subordinates, she just listed: wives, children, servants or slaves. A wife is subordinate to her husband. That's it. You cannot. This is twisting the words so they can eventually mean something like what she wants them to mean, and that's the typical method of the adversary, actually.
But within that relationship, you can still have the mind and the action of Christ.
So here.
And now Preston goes back again and wants to clarify again the same thing, because this doesn't make sense to him, but he must accept it in his brain, because the two spirits now at war in his brain. Spirit and the theology of Jezebel and the truth is warring in his mind now.
Then he, that sets up everything. Then he goes into 3 different sets of relationships: wives, husbands, children, parents, slaves, masters. Would you say that he's still using the familiar terminology?
See? Familiar terminology
To the Greco-Roman environment, but as he describes these 3 sets of relationships, like the content of the description is almost subtly describing mutual submission without using the term submit. Like he's not saying math.
Now, we talked about this earlier on 10 minutes ago. He tried and he tries it again because this doesn't make sense.
Submit to your slaves, but the way he just reorients the relationship, he kind of is getting at that without using the language.
No, he doesn't, Preston. He doesn't. Not at all. He doesn't. She wants you to think this, but the text says something different. And this is a perfect example, a prime example. We must listen to what the text says, not what the professors or doctors or theologians or philosophers say. It doesn't matter what they say. The text is plain and simple. It makes it clear who should submit to whom. We don't need to read nothing into it. There is no this kind of layer what he's trying to describe, that somehow Shaul is now subverting the whole system and turning upside down the hierarchical structure of the family. He doesn't say that. And now we're just trying to accept what she reads into the text as the truth.
He's trying to use the same language that isn't going to offend the Greco-Roman structures, but he's still gutting them from the inside out.
No, he doesn't. Not at all. Not at all. He's not even thinking about this. Yeah, of course, she has to say yes because this is her idea.
Well, he's already said mutually submit, and I don't look at.
Yeah, he did say, and he had 13. He has 13 letters in the New Testament, so he said a whole lot of things, and we cannot just build our whole theology on that one sentence that mutually submit to each other, and then that's it. That's the end all be all. No, it isn't. After that, the very next sentence, he says, wives, submit to your own husbands. And in 33, he says, wives, revere your husbands, meaning fear, in awe, look at them.
Look at this and find this any more disturbing than I find Philippians 2.
Yeah, it is disturbing, actually.
I think this is exactly what Philippians 2 is telling us.
No, it isn't. That doesn't say nothing like this.
To do. Or what Jesus said, if you want to be first, you make yourself a slave of all. And man.
Yes, but that doesn't mean literally you're going to be a slave. How could it mean? Just think about this for a second. If I had a slave or a servant, how could I submit myself to them? Yes, in some aspects, I will treat them as equal in Hamashiach Yahusha or Christ. However, the hierarchy still puts me as the master above my servant, and he will obey, otherwise he is not a servant. And that's the same in regards to husbands and wives. Yes, they are equal in terms of worth and dignity, but they are not equal on the hierarchical ladder. Man is always going to be, at least according to Elohim or God, higher than the woman. So the woman must submit to her husband and revere him. And it doesn't say about that in regards to the man.
Matthew 25. This has been said over and over and over again. But how does it? But this is the thing: is how do these teachings? How does Jesus' teaching or Paul saying, "I make myself a slave to all, that I by all means win some"?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's subordinate to everyone. There is a structure, and he writes in his letters that for sure there is. Just read this: "For we are glad." This is Corinthians' second letter, 13 and 9 and 10. "When we are weak, and ye are strong, and this also we wish, your perfection, even your perfection. Therefore I write these things, being absent, as I am not there with you, lest being present I should use sharpness, according to the power which the sovereign has given me to edification, and not to destruction." So he has a power, which is exousia. Exousia means privilege, force, the capacity, mastery, magistrate, a superhuman, delegated. So he has mastery over them. I have a power which a sovereign has given me to edification. Edification meaning to help them, to build them up. Confirmation, to help them, not to destroy them. So there is a hierarchy. And yes, he's a servant to everyone, but not in the sense she wants it to be. As a wife is a servant to her husband. Of course not a slave, but still. Right.
How does this work out within these authority relationships within the culture? And that's what he's doing with these household codes, is he's helping them navigate the culture.
No, this is not the case. Just understand this. I say again, he wasn't thinking about the culture and their household codes. What he wanted to do is give them the way Elohim, God, wants them to live. This is what he wanted to do, and this is what he did. Just because some of the things in this list, what he gave them, coincides with the household codes of the Greco-Roman culture. That doesn't mean he wanted to navigate that or somehow incorporate it or go around or subvert it. No, nothing like that happened. And it is very sad that a professor and doctor can just go and write books about these things and spread all these falsehoods. So at this point, I think I'm just going to stop. Thank you for your attention, and I'll continue whenever I'll have time. And all praises to Yahuah, Hallelujah, and Shalom.